Hello and welcome back on this new video. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe so you can get a notification whenever I upload the new content. In this video we are going to go through some cool new actually function that Excel has available, namely the take function, the choose columns and choose rows. And we are going to mix it up with actually the earlier functions that Excel has available to see how we can actually subset data set. So when you have a huge data set and you want to quickly actually do some subsetting, you want to actually impress your boss, right? So because basically this kind of subsetting actually were made easy using some code, like Python or R, to run some few code to get this data set, out of the a large amount of data set. But with the new function in Excel, you can actually quickly do that without actually trying to go through, using Python or R, to get this done. The first function that we're going to look up here is actually the choose column. Choose column simply helps you, pick a column, from the whole data set. So the choose column here that we're going to explore here, when we use here say choose columns, so it's going to actually choose a column. So the first thing we need to feed in is the array. So we need to select an array and then the column that we want to choose. So I already have an array set. My array here, the array of this data set is table 2. So when I select all these here, the entire data set actually is actually going to write down here on table 2. So it's actually table 2 because there is a name to it, right? And then let's say I want to select the first column. So if you want to choose the first column, you just put 1 in there as index, and then you enter. It's going to select subset the first column, which start from the name of the patient, Papa Joe, and so on up down to the last one. Now notice this data set, because this is something that I was supposed to actually say. The data set technically here is actually about medical spending of some patients, right? Of some patients from a given health center, right? So you have the age of each patient here, the name, the age, sex, the body mass index, the children they have, the number of children, whether they smoke or not, the region they are from in the United States, and then the total expenses they've incurred throughout the year for their medical expenses. So when you pick one here, it's going to just choose the first column. It goes down the ladder. If I put 5 in there, it's going to choose the 5th column. So when you enter this, it's going to pick the 5th column, which is actually the number of children and so on. So choose columns simply choose the columns. The same thing goes with the row. If I was to choose the row here, let's say over here, instead of choosing I'm going to choose a row right now, and then we're going to see what happens here. So let's say I want to choose here the rows. So the same thing goes, right? It's just, first of all, you need to feed in the table that you are interested in. So my table is table 2, and then the row that you want to subset, right? If I want to look up to the, say, the first row, you just put in there 1. I want to see the first row, and your close is going to show you the first row, and that's what we have here. So the first row, if I wanted to see like the second row, we start from Katie Bass, that's the name of the patients. I just switch this over from 1 to 2, and I'm going to see the second row, right? And I can actually want to say, hey, I want to see the first 2 rows. So the first and then the second, you just put in there 1 comma 2, and it's going to show you the first 2, okay, the first on the second row. And the same thing with the choose columns. Actually, if you want to see the first 2 rows, so let's say I want to see the first on the 5th row. So if I put in there 1 and then 5, is going to show me the first on the 5th. That's what we have here, and so on. So you can choose whichever row you want to see. If you want to see, you just put the index of the row, whether you want to see the first, the second, and you can couple them with the first 2 rows, the first 3, and so on. So that's how this function works. Now let's explore the take function. So the take function actually merge the choose row and choose column all together, to subset your data. So this is how actually all these Python and R actually what you want to subset. You can either do both or do them all together. So the take function here takes both the row and the columns all together. So let's explore this right here. So say I want to use here the take function, right? So actually we can clear this out to make some space here. All right, so if I was to use here my take function, take, okay, you start with the array and then you feed in the rows that you want to see and then the columns that you want to see, right? And you have the choice. If you do not want to see the column, is fine, but you can also choose to see them. So first of all is the array, and we know that our array is the table 2, okay, is the entire table that we have here. Say I want to see the first row, okay, and then I'm gonna see the first row, and say the second column, which has to do with the age. So the first row, the second column, that's 1 2, and then you enter here. It's going to show me the first row, the second column, which is 18. So it's actually the first row here. Technically you have the this entire row, and then the second. So actually what's going on here with the takes only tell it, it just takes all the row up to the column that you choose. So I choose the second column. It means it's going to pick the entry, the cell data in the first and second, because my column stop at 2. So if I was to choose like third column, it's going to pick the name of the patient, the age, and then this the gender, the sex, which is male. It's going to stop as male. So it only choose the columns. Actually tells the take function where to stop. Actually it tells when what cell to stop. So it gives a boundary to this, to your subset actually. So if you put the column, is going to tell you where to stop. So if I don't precise any column that I want, it's going to pick all of the cells. So from patients up to expenses. So let's say I didn't give any index to the column, I just stop at 1. So it's going to take everything all together. So we have all the record, all the cells, 1 2 3 4, all the 7 cells have been taken into account. And so that's what actually the column is about here. So when you choose a column like 5, it's going to stop at the 5th record in our in the data set. So clearly you can see here. So it picks here. I choose in the, when you look at here, I choose the second, 5th, actually the 5th row. So it's going to pick 1 2 3 5 rows here, and all the columns are selected. Now if I put a boundary to this, say I want to just look up to the third column, it's not going to take all the record. It's going to stop here at the third, which is 6. So the gender is where it's going to stop. If I enter, this is what we have. We only have like 3 records, right? You have the name, you have the age, and then the gender. So that's where it stops. And that's actually what the take function is doing right here. So clearly you can see and the same thing goes actually, right? If we want to say I don't want to see any rows, okay, I'm only interested in columns. So I don't want to. So when you ignore the index on the row, it means you want to take all the rows. Say I just remove the 5 here and just leave this blank, okay, empty. I just leave this blank and then choose. So I do not want to. So it means like regardless of the row, I just want to see the third column. So when we do that, enter, this is what we have here. So regardless of the row, you are only interested on the third column. So you want to see the first, the second, and the third column. That's what you are saying. So all the rows here will be selected. So that's the difference between the take function and then the first two, right? They choose column, then choose rows. So choose column, choose row, only choose just the row, just the columns. But this right here is the intersect. You choose both the row and the column all together. So let's say I want to use like average with take function, right? And say I want to get like the average of the last 3 records. So we have the last 3 records here, and then let's assume I want to have the average of this last 3 records in such a way that whenever the data update, whenever the table gets updated and the new data are fed in, the total average is going to like update automatically. So let's assume that here I use my take function here, and say I want to grab like the last 3 records, the last 3 expenses, actually not the patient's name whatsoever, but the last 3 expenses. So I'm going to take here, my array is going to be my table 2, absolutely, and then I'm interested on the last 3 records. So the rows here will be the last three, that will be -3 because I'm interested on the last three. And my column, because I want this last column right here, that will be -1 because I want to get this record. Okay, this last 1 2 3 record here. So we can close this and enter. So it's going to get me this 1 2 3 record, right, from 3,000 down to 1,700. So these are the last three record here, right, when trying to grab. So the -3 is meant for these, okay, these last three rows, and then on the column side -1 to say I want to get the record backward, right? So it's going to get me this last three record. Now what I want to get here out of this is just the average. Okay, so we're going to put in the average so we can get the average expenses, right, for the last three entries. So we can put in here average and close this, enter. It's going to get the average of this last three record. Now here is how actually we can make use of take, to get now what I want to add up here is if I was to update this data set. Clearly you can see the average here is 2,727. So that's the average. Let me actually make it bigger, maybe something like 20, and make this bigger so we see the amount. So this is 2,700, and actually I can put a comma in there. Okay, 2,700. Let's say we want to update this data set. Actually I have a data set here that I can fill in, and say we add the table, actually new data set, we're fitting. I think I have a record here that I actually want to grab and then put it here. So it's a new record gets in there, and what happened, boom, you see the average changed to 12,000. It was at 2,700. Now it changed to 12,000. That's the average because the table it's been updated, and the last three record we have before is no more the same. It has updated, and that's how it goes. Even if we have like 100 million record added up to this, the last three record, the average, we always keep on updating, and we keep on getting like new record actually, in the data, new record, like as new record gets in, and then we're going to have a new average. So the average will keep on updating as